There has been a set of lenses with a specific collection of attributes that I've been wanting for a long time. And no lens manufacturer has ever made a set of lenses that fits perfectly into what I want. But now, a company I had never heard of until just a few months ago may have just pulled it off. Like most people watching this, when I first started making films, I shot everything on photo lenses, often the kit zoom for my Canon 60D, but around 2015 I got a Sony mirrorless and decided to get a lens that would become one of my favorite lenses of all time, the Zeiss Luxia 35mm f2. As someone who didn't start shooting video until his mid-20s, I never went to film school and therefore did not have access to cinema lenses. I had never even used them. But when I got the Zeiss Luxia with its aperture ring, beautiful focusing experience, and hard stops, it was truly a revolution for me. Now, you also have to remember that this was 2015, when video autofocus was terrible. So anything that allowed me to manually focus easier and smoother was a huge bonus. I absolutely fell in love with the process of taking photos and shooting video. I also love the experience of focusing for photos, and some of my favorite photos ever were taken with the Zeiss Luxia 35mm. I also used the lens with a gimbal for my Oscar-nominated short documentary, Heroine, which you can watch on Netflix. And ever since, I've been searching for what the Zeiss Luxia gave me, a set of lenses with these 6 great attributes. Covered full-frame sensors, were fast at a T2 or faster, had an aperture ring, had a great manual focusing experience, had great image quality, and finally, were built like tanks but were still under 500 grams. And hopefully, were reasonably affordable. And until now, there has been no cinema lenses or photo lenses that fit this criteria until now, when Typoc released their Simera C cinema lens lineup. And after using these lenses for the past month or so, I can say that they are finally what I have been looking for nearly a decade. So let's dig into what makes these lenses so special, and at the end, I'll do a quick comparison with another brand new lens set that has also come on the market recently, and comes pretty darn close to fulfilling my cinema lens dream, and that's the Cooke SP3s. Let's get into it. If you're interested in these lenses, then you probably already have quite a bit of the background on these lenses. They're made by a company named Typoc, which I had never heard of before, but they make small rangefinder lenses for Leica M mount. But they teamed up with DZO to make these. But this is made by Typoc, and I'm guessing that DZO offers some expertise in terms of actually cinema housing and making these pure cinema lenses rather than just rangefinder lenses. Let's go through my 6 attributes that I was really looking for a decade for a great set of cinema lenses. The first is that they have to cover full frame sensors, and the Typoc Simera Cs do just that. They cover full frame and they come in a few different mounts. Now I got them in E-mount primarily so I could use them with my Ronin 4D, which I currently have set up as an E-mount camera. But if I got a set of these, I'd probably get them all in M-mount so that I could use them on a variety of different cameras. For example, if you have an M-mount lens, then you can easily adapt it to E-mount or L-mount or RF mount, or even use them on M-mount cameras. That makes them really highly adaptable and can be used on pretty much any mirrorless mount that you can think of. They're also super fast, especially for a lens this small. All of these lenses, from the 75, the 50, the 35, and even the 21, are T1.5, which is pretty wild at this price point and for lenses that are this small. If you have a 21 at a T1.5, you're just gonna get some really unique looking images because you get super wide, but still get a really shallow depth of field. And as you see with some of the footage that I'm showing right now, when you have that combination, it creates a really unique effect that is really, really beautiful. So the cover full frame sensors are very fast at a t1.5, but they also just have that beautiful cinema lens build. So you have really nice focus throws. I believe they're all uniform at about 210 degrees. The operation of that focus ring and that aperture ring is really smooth. It has just enough tension on it to make it really apparent what you are actually doing when you're changing focus or changing your aperture. I do find that some of the cheaper lenses have not enough tension to their focus rings and it feels like they're kind of flying around. Here it's really perfect, and I've used it on the Ronin 4D quite a bit, which obviously has focus gears and has a follow focus attached to it, and it's been really easy to make just micro adjustments with this focus ring, and so that's really important. So all of these lenses have a really nice manual focus experience. All right, next characteristic that I want to talk about is probably the most important, and that of course is image quality. Now, when I was back at home over the holidays, I took quite a few days to go out and shoot my brother and his family as they work on their homesteading farm. And there are lots of beautiful and cute lambs and sheep around, but it was a great way to test these lenses in a few different conditions, including some pretty harsh winters. In my opinion, the image out of the Taipak Samarases is beautiful. At that t1.5, and I did shoot quite a bit wide open, you get a really beautiful image that is actually pretty darn sharp. I mean, you can see with this image right here of my brother, I'm wide open on the 50mm. It is really, really sharp, but also has an incredible fall off with the bokeh and with the out of focus areas. I think when you talk about image quality, it is very subjective. It's just kind of what looks good to your eyes and what you want your projects to look like. I think these lenses can be used on a variety of different projects. You know, when you think of something like the Desio Pavo Anamorphics, it's a very specific look, and so you may not want to use it on every project. And so having a set of lenses that can be used on documentary films or narrative films or commercials and can be used in a wide variety of applications is really useful, especially if you're going to invest in a set of cinema lenses. While these do have sort of a nice, soft, vintagey characteristic, I don't think it's too extreme in that regard, like it would be for a Contax Zeiss or even the Helios 44. And so these strike a nice middle ground of vintage and modern. They're sharp, they're very fast, and they have just a really beautiful image. But if you want to see 40 minutes of footage of these lenses, then you can check out my video where I put up 40 minutes of cinematic Taipak Samarase footage, and you can judge for yourself whether you like the image. The final characteristic that I was talking about when I was looking for my perfect set of cinema lenses for the past decade is that they weigh under 500 grams. There's something beautiful about the Zeiss Loxia being an all-metal build, aperture ring, hard stops, manual focusing experience, and yet we're still fairly lightweight, and these lenses are no different. They range in weight from 390-ish grams to 470 grams. They are really well built. They feel like they're all metal construction. They could probably take a beating. And finally, though it wasn't a specific parameter on what I was looking for in a cinema lens set, obviously the price is a big factor on whether you're going to buy a cinema lens set. And these are incredibly affordable. I believe they're about $900 per lens, but you can get a set of 4 with a carrying case for under $4,000, which is a pretty incredible deal. And quickly, I want to compare these lenses to another set of lenses that have a lot of the same attributes. They fulfill almost all of my parameters that I want in a cinema lens set, but with one very big important difference, and that's the Cooke SP3s. As I've been using the DJI Ronin 4D more and more, and it is the A-cam on a feature dock I am currently shooting, I needed a set of really nice cinema lenses that work on the Ronin 4D, but also fulfill the dream that I've had for over a decade. And the only lens set that has come out recently that fulfilled all of those parameters was the Cooke SP3s. Now, the Cooke SP3s, like the Taipaks, are very small, very lightweight, but they have actually some shortcomings compared to the Taipaks. The first is all the lenses are a T2.4, so they are quite a bit slower, more than about a stop and a half. Now, I will say the Cookes feel like they're built a little better. They're definitely heavier in the hand, and whatever the different metal that they are using feels much more solid than what is in the Taipaks, but at the expense of being a little bit heavier. Granted, they're still pretty darn light. I don't think they're just around 500 to 600 grams per lens. They're not going to break your back by any means. The look of these two lenses, I think, is also actually quite a bit different. In my opinion, the Cooks have a lot more character, and that is potentially good or bad depending on what you're working on. They have a much more pronounced bokeh. They just have a lot more character, a lot more going on in the background, and I believe they are a little bit sharper than the Cimericese wide open. But if you stop the Cimericese down to the equivalent T2.4, then I'm guessing you probably lose that sharpness advantage that the Cooks have. But obviously the biggest difference is the price. Each one of these Cooks costs over $4,000. So if you wanted to get a set of Cooks, you could get one lens for the same price of 4 Typox Cimericese. So that is probably the biggest difference and the most important for 99% of the people watching this video. Now, I started building out a Cooke lens set, again, because I was on a feature doc that was using the Cookes. So if I can rent them back to the production and make back the cost of actually purchasing the Cooke set, then it makes financial sense to go that route. If I was starting from scratch, I was just going to use these on my own work or on my smaller budget commercial work or branded content, then I would definitely go with the Typox Cimericese, obviously because they are so much cheaper, a stop and a half faster than the Cookes, and have a different look that could be used on different types of projects. After a decade of wanting the perfect cinema lens set that hits all of the characteristics I wanted in a cinema lens set, Typox has done it with the Cimericese. They cover full frame sensors, come in a variety of mounts, are incredibly fast at a T1.5, have a beautiful aperture ring, incredible manual focusing experience, and are built like tanks but still under 500 grams, and best of all, incredibly affordable for what they are. So what do you think of the Typox Cimericese, a lens set that you are looking for? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.